The chamber of the Grand Galactic Council was vast and bright, filled with banners of 100 alien civilizations. Their voices rose in argument, 1,000 tongues speaking at once, but all with the same message: Earth did not belong. The human delegation stood small at the center, a handful of men and women who had traveled across light years to speak. They carried themselves with dignity. But in their eyes, there was both hope and fear. The lead delegate, a woman with tired features and a steady voice, pleaded once more. We ask only for fairness. Humanity has honored the treaties. We have defended the borders when others could not. Why turn against us now? Her words echoed across the chamber, but the answer was laughter. Cold, sharp laughter from rows of alien leaders who had already decided her fate. A tall reptilian counselor leaned forward, his scaled lips curling into a grin. Fairness. You humans were useful as shields. Nothing more. But your time is finished. Earth is weak, fractured, still clawing its way through the stars like a newborn. Another voice, deep and metallic from a machine-bodied race, added, The resources of Earth are meek. Your ships are obsolete. The Council will prosper without you. You have no place here. The humans did not move, but the silence between them was heavy. The Council leader raised a jeweled staff, and with one strike against the floor, the decision was sealed. By majority vote, Earth is cast out. Its colonies are stripped of protection. Any who still trade with humanity will answer to the Council's wrath. The chamber roared with approval. Some shouted openly, celebrating as if a victory had been won. Others muttered that it was necessary, that humans were dangerous if left unchecked. The human delegation was escorted out, their faces pale, their dignity intact but their hearts burning. Outside, in the dark corridors of the spire, whispers followed them. Alien aides spoke in low voices. Humans were warned. They never should have trusted the Council. Others chuckled cruelly. Now their little blue world will see the truth of the galaxy. Alone, they will wither. But in the shadows, not all voices mocked. A handful of observers spoke differently. They say, Earth has secrets. They say the humans have been building something in silence. The whispers grew, too quiet for most to notice. Some say the humans hide weapons the Council has never seen.
Yes.
Far away, back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Entire colonies mourned. Farmers on Mars cursed the Council. Miners on Titan smashed their tools against the walls of the tunnels. Refugees began to flee from border worlds, knowing without the Council's shield, predators and raiders would descend upon them. On Earth itself, anger burned hotter than sorrow. Cities lit up with protests. People gathered under the stars, pointing at the sky, vowing never to bow again. The betrayal stung. But it also woke something ancient in the human spirit. The Council thought humanity would collapse, but instead it united. Old rivalries between nations faded overnight. Leaders who once argued now spoke with one voice. Humanity remembered the long history of betrayal and survival. From ancient wars to battles for independence, humans had always risen when cornered. Now, once again, they were cornered. In the quiet halls of Earth's hidden command centers, secret meetings began. Admirals sat in shadowed rooms studying star maps. Generals traced their fingers over routes long kept secret. Scientists unveiled projects that had been buried in silence, hidden even from Earth's own people. Vast underground hangars stirred. Engines that had slept for decades came alive, their thunder shaking the ground above. The Council believed Earth was defenseless, but the truth was darker, sharper. Humanity had learned from every betrayal. While the galaxy watched Earth's weakness, humanity had been preparing. Ships larger than anything seen before waited beneath the lunar surface. Weapons powered by stolen Council designs gleamed in silence. Soldiers trained in secret, their loyalty unshakable. The betrayal in the chamber was not the end. It was the spark. Back in the Council spire, the aliens celebrated their decision. They drank and boasted, mocking the small human race. They will beg for scraps within a year, said one. Soon their colonies will fall into our hands, another sneered. Perhaps we will enslave them properly this time. They never should have joined the stars. But among them, a few shifted uneasily. They remembered Earth's strange history, its resilience. They recalled battles where humans outnumbered and outgunned still refused to die. A nervous aide whispered, "What if they come back?" His superior silenced him with a glare. "They will not. They have nothing left." And yet, somewhere in the blackness of space, a transmission pulsed quietly between hidden relays. A simple message repeated again and again. Across coded channels the Council had long forgotten. The fleet awakens. The betrayal was sealed with the Council's arrogance. But they had made one fatal mistake. They had reminded humanity of its greatest weapons, unity in the face of destruction. And now, for the first time in generations, Earth stood together, fists clenched, eyes burning with the fire of vengeance. The Council thought they had cast humanity into silence. What they had really done was unleash a storm that was waiting to rise. The galaxy had laughed at Earth. Soon, that laughter would end. The fall of Earth was not sudden, but it was sharp. The moment the Council declared its betrayal, a wave of consequences spread across the stars. Trade routes that once carried food, medicine, and technology to human colonies shut down overnight. Allied fleets that once patrolled the borders turned away, their ships vanishing into the darkness. On alien stations, humans were expelled. Their businesses closed, their ships seized. What was once friendship had become silence. Across the colonies, fear turned to anger. On Mars, miners stood outside the domes, fists raised at the crimson sky. "The Council has abandoned us," they said, "but we will not abandon Earth." On Titan, children cried as alien raiders appeared in orbit, their ships circling like vultures. Refugees filled transport vessels, fleeing back toward the blue planet that was now their only hope. For the first time in generations, Earth was alone. The Council believed this would break humanity. They thought the colonies would collapse without trade, without protection. But instead of breaking, the isolation forged something stronger. Old grudges between nations dissolved. Leaders who once competed for power now gathered in the same halls, speaking with one voice. Betrayal had given them clarity, but the galaxy did not wait. Alien fleets moved quickly, smelling blood. On the edge of human space, a small colony world called New Carthage faced the first wave. The invaders descended, demanding surrender. "You have no allies now," the alien captain declared. "Kneel, and we will spare you." The humans on the colony refused. Farmers, engineers, and soldiers alike took up arms. They fought from the forests and the valleys, their weapons old and weak compared to the enemy's machines. Entire villages burned, but the people did not break. Every man and woman who fell bought time for the transports filled with children to escape. The alien fleet reported back to the Council that humanity was broken, beaten. But those reports did not tell the full truth. They did not tell of the human resolve that refused to die. Even when fire rained from the sky, on Earth, the return of refugees filled the cities. Camps grew around spaceports as transports landed one after another. Families separated by war were reunited, but they carried stories of horror. They told of alien captains who mocked them, of raiders who treated them like prey. Their voices carried through the streets of Earth's cities, fueling the fire of anger. In hidden chambers beneath the surface of the planet, leaders gathered in silence. Old generals, young commanders, and scientists who had worked in secrecy for decades stood together. On the walls behind them hung banners of human history, battles long past, victories won against impossible odds. One admiral spoke with steel in his voice. "The Council believes we are finished. They believe they have erased us. They are wrong. Humanity has always been strongest when we are alone. Now we rise together." The Council celebrated its triumph. They saw Earth as crippled, unable to move without their chains. But in the shadows, the opposite was true. Freed from the Council's watch, Earth could finally reveal what it had hidden. Far beneath the lunar surface, machines long buried came alive. Massive hangar doors opened slowly, ancient dust falling into the void. Inside, ships of impossible size and power rested, their hulls black as night, their engines glowing with silent energy. They were not the crude ships the Council believed humanity possessed. These were something else, creations born of secrecy, sacrifice, and stolen knowledge. For years, humanity had endured the Council's control, obeying their laws, bowing to their demands. But in silence they had learned. Engineers had studied alien technology in secret. Scientists had hidden discoveries, locking them away beneath oceans and mountains. While the galaxy mocked Earth as weak, humanity had been preparing for the day they would stand alone. That day had come. On the colonies, survivors whispered of rumors. Earth has a fleet, they said. Not the old ships, not the ones the Council saw. Something greater. At first, no one believed. But then stories began to grow. Refugees spoke of strange signals coming from the moon, of transport convoys vanishing into hidden stations, of engineers recalled from distant worlds with no explanation. The whispers reached the Council itself. Some dismissed them as fear. Others grew uneasy. A nervous voice in the chamber asked, "What if Earth has been hiding something?" The Council leader struck his staff and silenced them. They have nothing. If they had such power, they would have shown it. Earth is broken. Humanity is no threat. But outside the chamber, far beyond the Council's gaze, something stirred. A convoy of refugee ships approached Earth, broken, scarred, carrying the last survivors of a colony that no longer existed. The fleet that greeted them was not what they expected. From the dark side of the moon, massive shadows rose. Ships larger than cities moved with silence, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. The refugees gasped as they passed beneath them. These were not the vessels they had known. These were titans of war. Children pressed their faces to the windows of their transports, whispering in awe. Soldiers stood straighter, their despair melting into hope. For the first time since the betrayal, humanity saw its hidden strength. Inside the command ship, an admiral watched the stars with cold eyes. His voice carried across the fleet. The Council thought us weak. They thought they had crushed us. But they gave us unity. They gave us purpose. And soon, they will see the price of betrayal. The shadows of exile had not destroyed humanity. They had forged it. The galaxy had believed Earth would kneel. Instead, Earth was preparing to rise with fury. The silence before the storm was ending. The humans had been betrayed, but they were no longer alone. They had something greater than allies. They had vengeance, and somewhere, far from Earth. The first alien patrol ships began to notice strange readings at the edge of their sensor signals of something vast. Moving quietly through the void, the humans were coming. The moon was silent, as it had always been. Cold craters stretched into endless shadows, untouched for millions of years. But deep beneath its surface, the silence was broken. Machines long dormant roared to life. Massive engines, hidden for decades, powered up with a low, thunderous hum that shook the ground above. Doors larger than cities began to open. They had been carved into the lunar rock generations ago, invisible to the Council's eyes, disguised as empty wastelands. Now they slid apart, releasing plumes of dust that drifted into space. Behind them, dark shapes stirred. The first ship emerged slowly, its shadow swallowing the stars. It was colossal, larger than anything the galaxy had seen from Earth before. Its black hull gleamed with silver lines, every panel forged in secrecy, every weapon hidden from the Council's gaze. Lights flickered along its surface as power surged through its veins, and the engines glowed like suns. Inside, men and women stood at their stations, their faces calm but burning with purpose. They had trained for this moment in silence, waiting for the day the betrayal would come. Now, their time had arrived. "All systems online," a voice reported. "Fleet command is ready." The admiral stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the stars. His uniform was plain, without the glittering ornaments the Council's commanders wore. But his presence was heavier than steel. He gave the order with a steady voice. "Launch them all." And so they came. From the moon's hidden bays, ship after ship rose into the void. Battleships, carriers, cruisers, and destroyers, an armada of steel and fire. Their formations locked into place with precision, like a blade being forged in the dark. Thousands of smaller craft followed, darting like sparks from the great machines. The Council had mocked Earth, believing its fleets were small and outdated. But what rose now was no broken force. It was a storm on Earth. Millions watched as the night sky lit up with streaks of light. Children pointed upward as the armada ascended, engines glowing like falling stars in reverse. Refugees wept openly, their despair dissolving into awe. They had thought Earth helpless. Now they saw the truth. Humanity had never been helpless. Humanity had been waiting. In the hidden command centers, generals studied the screens with grim satisfaction. "They will see us now," one whispered. "They will finally see." Far away, on the edge of human space, alien patrol fleets noticed strange signals. Their captains frowned as their sensors screamed with impossible readings. "These are human ships," one asked, disbelief heavy in his voice. "This cannot be." The answer came in the form of the first engagement. The patrol fleet, 20 strong, moved to intercept what they believed were small human transports. But when they came close, their laughter died. Before them stretched an entire battle group of humanity's hidden fleet. The largest human warship turned slowly, its weapons glowing with restrained power. The alien commander panicked. "Fall back. Call for reinforcements." But it was too late. The first volley came like a storm. Beams of blue light and lances of fire cut through the void, tearing alien ships apart in seconds. The patrol fleet didn't even have time to send a full distress signal. In minutes, it was over. Nothing remained but drifting wreckage and silence. The survivors on nearby colonies saw the flashes of the battle from afar. Word spread across the stars faster than any ship could fly. The humans are back. They are stronger than ever. Back in the council chamber, the whispers began. At first, they were ignored. Reports were dismissed as false, exaggerated by frightened captains. But the whispers grew. More fleets vanished on the borders. Alien stations reported unknown signals, massive formations moving through the dark. One counselor shouted in disbelief. "They should not have this power. We controlled them, restricted them." Another hissed. "Then explain the fleets appearing from nowhere. Explain the patrols that vanish without a trace." The chamber filled with panic. For the first time, the council felt fear. Meanwhile, humanity's fleet did not stop. Shipyards in orbit around Earth came alive, launching even more vessels. Asteroid bases, once thought abandoned, revealed their hidden forges. Entire star systems long ignored lit up as hidden facilities powered on, sending more ships into the black. The admiral stood at the center of it all, watching his armada grow. His voice carried across the command networks, strong and cold. The council believed betrayal would end us, but betrayal is what gave us strength. We are united now as we have never been before, and we will not forgive. In the refugee camps, hope turned to fire. Men and women volunteered in millions. They signed up not only to fight, but to avenge. Soldiers returned to service, pilots climbed into cockpits, engineers worked without rest. Humanity's machine of war no longer hid. It was alive, and it was hungry. The fleet gathered in the outer orbit of Earth, a sea of steel stretching farther than the eye could see. For hours they hung in silence, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Then the order came. Set course for council space. Engines ignited. Thousands of ships leaped forward in perfect formation, their drives burning bright against the darkness. The storm had begun to move, and across the galaxy, those who had mocked humanity felt a new chill in their bones. For the first time in their history, the council realized they had made a mistake far greater than betrayal. They had woken something that could not be controlled. The fleet had awakened, and it was coming for vengeance. The first engagement came at the edge of council space, in a quiet system of dying stars. To the aliens stationed there, it was just another routine patrol. They had laughed when they heard rumors of a new human fleet. They dismissed them as refugee lies, desperate stories told to give hope to the broken. The alien commander leaned back in his chair, his scaled claws tapping lazily on the armrest. Humans? Strong? Do not make me laugh. Their ships are rust. Their weapons are toys. If they dare appear here, we will burn them in minutes. His officers chuckled, certain their words were truth. But then the alarms began to scream. Unknown signatures appeared at the edge of their sensors. At first, they thought it was debris, maybe a passing asteroid. But the readings grew clearer, sharper. The operator's voice trembled. "Commander, this is no asteroid. It's ships. Dozens. No, hundreds of them." The laughter died. Out of the void, shadows emerged. Massive human warships slid into view, their hulls black as the abyss, their weapons glowing like cold fire. They moved in perfect formation, silent, unstoppable. The alien commander stood frozen. His words caught in his throat as the human flagship turned slowly, its guns locking onto their fleet. A voice echoed across the comms, calm and unshaken. "It was human. You betrayed us. Now you will see the cost." Aliens scrambled to react. Fighters launched, weapons powered up, orders shouted in panic. But the humans struck first. The opening volley came like thunder. Beams of searing light tore across the stars, cutting through the alien ships as if they were paper. Explosions lit up the void, fragments spinning into nothingness. Entire cruisers vanished in a single strike. The alien commander screamed, "Return fire! Return fire!" But their shots were wild, desperate. Missiles launched and beams flashed, but they barely touched the human shields. The new human ships were faster, stronger, built for war in ways the Council had never imagined. Human fighters swarmed from their carriers like a wave of sparks. Sleek and agile, they darted through enemy lines, striking engines, shredding weapons, leaving burning wrecks behind. Alien captains shouted in disbelief, unable to believe what they saw. This cannot be humans. This cannot be. Within minutes, half the alien fleet was gone. The survivors tried to flee, engines burning bright as they raced for the edge of the system. But the humans did not allow escape. Interceptor squadrons hunted them down, cutting off their retreat. Each fleeing ship was silenced, one by one, until the system was empty of life. Silence returned to the stars. Broken only by the drifting wreckage of the once proud Council fleet, on the bridge of the human flagship, the Admiral stood unmoving, his eyes fixed on the debris. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the comms to every ship. "This is only the beginning. For every colony burned, for every human abandoned, there will be payment in full." Word spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet could travel. Traders whispered of annihilation. Refugees cheered, crying out in hope. On alien worlds, citizens muttered in fear. The humans had struck and they had won in the council chamber. Chaos erupted. Reports poured in of fleets destroyed, stations burned, and colonies reclaimed by humans. Leaders shouted over one another, demanding explanations. One slammed his fist against the table. Impossible. They should not have this power. How could they build such weapons in silence? Another voice, trembling with fear, answered, "Perhaps we should not have betrayed them." Oh, but it was too late. The first strike had changed everything in hidden human command centers. The victory was received not with cheers, but with grim determination. They knew this was only the first step. The Council would send greater fleets, entire armadas to crush them. But humanity was ready. On Earth, cities erupted in celebration. People filled the streets, chanting, waving banners, lighting fires in joy. For the first time since the betrayal, hope blazed across the planet. Refugees from the colonies cried as they watched the broadcasts, whispering, "We are not alone. Earth still fights." But the soldiers and admirals knew the truth. This was not victory. This was war. And war would demand more than a single battle. Far away in the cold reaches of space, another Council fleet prepared to move. Their commanders swore vengeance, promising to burn Earth to ashes. But in the dark beyond, unseen by their sensors, The human fleet was already waiting. The council had unleashed something they could not control. The first strike was only a message, a warning. Humanity had returned, and it would not stop until vengeance was complete. The council chamber had never known silence, yet now it was filled with it. The great hall, where once thousands of voices argued, now stood frozen. Screens around the chamber showed the burning wreckage of their fleets, the shattered hulks drifting in the void. The council had always been a place of arrogance and power. But for the first time in its long history, it was a place of fear. The council leader, a towering figure with silvered scales, slammed his staff against the floor. His voice shook the silence. "Explain this," he roared. "How does Earth have ships of this scale? How do humans command such power?" But no one had an answer. A machine-bodied representative spoke in a hollow, metallic tone. "The patrol fleet was destroyed in minutes. Our scanners show human vessels larger than anything we thought possible. Their weapons tore through our shields as if they were nothing. This should not be. Their technology was decades behind ours." Another counselor, an insectoid creature with trembling mandibles, hissed in disbelief. "We cut them off from resources. We restricted their trade. We forbade their research. How could they do this in silence?" The chamber filled with panic. Some shouted to assemble greater fleets. Others whispered that perhaps the humans had allies ancient powers from beyond the rim. But then a voice, calm and steady, cut through the noise. They did not need allies. All eyes turned to the speaker, a serpent-like diplomat whose species had once fought humanity long ago. His golden eyes glowed with unease. "Do you not remember their history? Do you not remember how they fought even when they should have lost? Humanity thrives in exile. They adapt when cornered. Betrayal did not weaken them, gave them time to prepare." The words struck the chamber like a blade. Many protested, but the seed of fear had already grown. Messages flooded in from across council space. Colonies along the borders reported vanishing fleets. Outposts stopped answering transmissions. Merchants spoke of sightings massive human warships moving in formation, silent and unstoppable. Some called them ghosts, shadows in the void. Others whispered a darker name, the Death World Fleet. The council leader slammed his staff again, desperate to hold control. They are still humans. They are still a minor race from a backwater world. They cannot stand against the united power of this council. But even as he spoke, his voice cracked with doubt. One counselor leaned forward, his skin pale with fear. "Then explain why their single fleet destroyed our forces without losses. Explain why our colonies fall silent one by one. If this continues, they will reach our core worlds. They will reach us." The chamber broke into chaos again. Some shouted to negotiate, to offer Earth its seat back before it was too late. Others demanded the complete destruction of humanity before it grew any stronger. No one agreed. The unity that once gave the council power was crumbling under the weight of fear in private chambers beyond the hall. Smaller groups gathered. Admirals argued with diplomats, blaming one another. "If we had crushed Earth long ago, this would not have happened." One shouted. "You let them grow to bold." Another spat back. "It was you who relied on them for border wars. You made them soldiers, and now you pay the price." The truth was clear to all. The council had made a mistake, but none dared admit it aloud. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the people of the council worlds whispered in the streets. Citizens who had once mocked humans now trembled at their name. Parents told children to stay indoors. Traders closed their routes. Rumors spread faster than light. The humans are coming. Back on Earth, those same whispers reached the ears of humanity's leaders. The Admiral stood in his command chamber, listening to intercepted transmissions of alien panic. His lips curled into a cold smile. "They are afraid," he said. "Good, fear will break them faster than fire." The fleet continued its march through the stars. With every victory, the Council lost more than ships. They lost their pride. They lost their unity. And in that weakness, humanity saw opportunity in the Council chamber. The final argument of the day ended with no resolution. The leaders left the hall in silence, their heads lowered. For the first time, they no longer looked like rulers of the galaxy. They looked like prey. The betrayal of Earth had been meant to weaken humanity. Instead, it had awakened something greater, something the Council could not control. The panic had only begun, and in the shadows of deep space, the human fleet prepared for its next strike. The Council's homeworld had always been a place of pride. From orbit, its shining towers stretched into the clouds, its cities spread like jewels across continents. Here, the leaders of 100 species ruled the galaxy without fear. For centuries, no enemy had dared bring war to their gates. But that time was over. The first human ships appeared in the system without warning. Sensors lit up in panic, alarms screaming across the Council's defense network. At first, they thought it was a raid, a small fleet meant to test their defenses. But as the shadows grew, the truth became clear. This was no raid. This was an invasion. The human armada poured from the void, ship after ship, rising into formation. Titans of steel and fire, their hulls black against the stars, their weapons glowing with terrible light. Thousands of vessels filled the sky, their engines blazing like suns. The Death World fleet had arrived. On the bridge of the flagship, the admiral stood calm, his eyes locked on the enemy world below. Around him, his officers worked in silence, every hand steady, every voice sharp. They knew what was coming. Targets locked, a voice reported. Defenses preparing to fire. The admiral gave the order with a cold finality. Begin. The storm began instantly. Human weapons lit the void, tearing through planetary shields with brutal precision. Defense satellites exploded in showers of fire. Alien fleets scrambled to respond, their commanders shouting orders, their ships launching in desperation. But the humans had come prepared. Carriers released waves of fighters, sleek machines diving into the heart of the alien lines. Cruisers unleashed broadsides that shattered enemy formations. Dreadnoughts fired beams so powerful they cut through entire ships in a single shot. The sky burned. From the planet below, citizens looked up in horror as fire rained through the atmosphere. Explosions painted the night, brighter than any storm. For the first time in their history, the Council's people knew what it felt like to be helpless. In the Council chamber, chaos ruled. Leaders shouted, some calling for surrender, others demanding the annihilation of humanity. But their voices were drowned out by the thunder of war outside. Screens flickered with images of their fleets falling one by one. Under the relentless human advance, one counselor pounded the table with trembling claws. Stop them. Use everything. Burn them from the skies. Another voice broke with despair. We cannot. Their weapons are beyond ours. Our fleets cannot hold. The Council, once feared across the galaxy, was now powerless. On the battlefield, the humans pressed forward without pause. No mercy, no hesitation. Every shot was deliberate, every strike fueled by the memory of betrayal. Soldiers remembered burned colonies, lost families, children who had died in the darkness of exile. Now, their vengeance roared across the stars. The alien defenders fought with desperation, but they were no match. Entire battle groups crumbled in minutes. The humans advanced like a tidal wave, unstoppable, inevitable. Inside the flagship, the admiral's voice cut through the coms, heard across the entire fleet. They cast us out. They left us to die. Today, we show them what it means to betray humanity. Today, they learned fear. His words were followed by silence, then by fire. On the planet below, alien strongholds were obliterated. Military bases, shipyards, and command centers vanished under precise strikes. Cities burned, their towers falling into ruin. Citizens fled in panic, their proud empire collapsing around them. The Council sent desperate pleas across the stars, begging for reinforcements. But no one came. The allies who had once worshipped the Council now stayed silent, too afraid to face the wrath of Earth. Some even celebrated quietly, glad to see their arrogant rulers brought low. The humans did not stop. They advanced deeper, crushing resistance with mechanical precision. Every hour brought another Council fleet destroyed, another stronghold erased. The galaxy watched in shock as the once invincible rulers of the stars were humbled by the very race they had mocked. On the bridge of the flagship, the admiral's eyes never wavered. His fleet had unleashed vengeance, and there was no turning back. His final words before the assault on the Council's capital city echoed like thunder. Betrayal has a price. Today, they pay it in full. The last wave of fire began. The capital world shook as human weapons tore into its surface. Alien towers crumbled. The proud monuments of the Council reduced to dust. Defenses collapsed, and the Council's fleets burned in orbit, their wreckage falling like rain. The war was no longer at the edges of the galaxy. It had come to the very heart of power, and the humans were winning. The vengeance of Earth had been unleashed, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it now. The flames of war still burned. When silence fell over the Council's capital world, the once proud towers lay in ruin, their spires broken and blackened by fire. Across the planet, smoke rose from shattered cities. In orbit, wreckage drifted like a graveyard, thousands of alien ships torn apart, their fragments circling endlessly. The Council chamber, once filled with arrogance and power, now lay broken. Its grand walls were cracked, its banners torn and burned. Only a handful of counselors remained, huddled together in fear. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries. But now, they were prisoners in their own hall. The doors opened with a thunderous crash. Human soldiers marched in, their armor dark and gleaming, their weapons ready. Behind them walked the Admiral. His face was calm, his steps measured. He did not need to shout. His presence alone filled the chamber with dread. The remaining counselors rose in panic. One shouted, his voice trembling, "This is madness. You cannot do this. We are the Council." The Admiral's gaze was cold as steel. "You were the Council," he said. "Now you are nothing." Another alien tried to speak, his mandibles clicking nervously. "We can negotiate. Humanity can be welcomed back. We can." The Admiral cut him off with a raised hand. "Negotiate. After betrayal, after you cast us out, left us to die, mocked us as weak, you wanted us broken. Instead, you made us strong. And now you will pay." The chamber fell silent. The humans stood like statues, their rifles glinting in the dim light. The aliens trembled, realizing there was no escape. Across the galaxy, broadcasts carried the scene. Human fleets had seized control of the communication networks. Every world, every species, every citizen was watching. They saw the Council humbled. They saw the humans standing tall in their place. The Admiral stepped forward, his voice echoing across the chamber and the galaxy beyond. "Hear these words. Humanity does not forget betrayal. Humanity does not forgive. You believed we were weak. You believed exile would end us. But betrayal is what made us strong. From this day forward, the age of the Council is over." The last Council leader, his scales pale with fear, whispered, "Then what? What becomes of us?" The Admiral's eyes burned like fire. "You become the warning." At his signal, the human soldiers activated the projection systems. Across the galaxy, billions watched as the Council chamber dissolved into chaos. The remaining leaders were taken away, stripped of their titles, their power broken forever. The message was clear. Those who betrayed humanity would find no mercy. On Earth, cheers erupted. Refugees wept, their voices rising with joy. Across human colonies, bells rang. Fires burned in celebration. For the first time since the betrayal, humanity stood not in shame, but in triumph. But the victory was more than revenge. It was transformation. The Council had ruled through fear and arrogance. Humanity would rule through something different, through survival, through unity, through the memory of betrayal. The galaxy would no longer laugh at Earth. They would bow before it in the silence after the battle. The Admiral stood on the balcony of the captured Council spire. The stars burned bright above, and the wreckage of the Council's fleet glimmered like dying embers. His voice carried once more a final declaration to the galaxy. They betrayed us once, never again. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity returns. The words echoed across 1,000 worlds. Some trembled. Some rejoiced. All understood. The age of the Council was finished. The age of humanity had begun.